The document you're about to hear should have been destroyed over a century ago. Helena Blavatsky, the founder of the Theosophical Society and one of the most influential women of the 19th century, left a record of something that completely contradicts her public teachings about spiritual evolution and karma. What she wrote in her secret diaries will shake everything you believe about life, death, and the continuity of the soul. After hearing this revelation, you'll never see the year 2025 the same way again. If you were guided to this truth today, it's because your consciousness is ready to expand beyond the veil of ordinary reality. In December 1890, just months before her death, Helena Petrovna Blavatsky called her innermost circle. Her voice trembled not from illness, but from absolute terror at what she had discovered. For decades, this extraordinary woman had channeled knowledge from the ascended masters, revealed the secrets of ancient wisdom, and founded a movement that would forever change our understanding of the spiritual world. But on that cold London winter night, Blavatsky spoke about something different, something that left her in panic. She had seen the future, and in that future, millions of souls would simply disappear. "Listen carefully to what I'm going to tell you," she whispered to the small group of disciples. "There will be a time when the very structure of reality will conduct a cleansing. I'm not talking about physical death. I'm talking about something much worse. Souls that will be completely erased from existence, as if they had never been born." The diaries of Annie Besant, her successor, record these exact words. Blavatsky described visions of a specific period, what she called the Great Forgetting, when people would begin to disappear not only from the physical world, but from humanity's collective memory itself. She saw entire families being erased, not by war, not by catastrophe, but by something she described as karmic immobility, souls that had stopped evolving, that had become dead weight in the fabric of reality. And the year she saw most clearly, the moment when this would begin irreversibly, was exactly 2025. If you've ever felt that there's something beyond what we see, if you've ever had the sensation that important people simply vanish from your life without explanation, leave a comment now, because what I'm about to reveal next will connect dots you didn't even know existed. For over 130 years, the secret archives of the Theosophical Society have guarded documents that should never see the light of day. In 1987, during a renovation of the headquarters in Chennai, India, workers discovered an iron box buried beneath what used to be Blavatsky's personal garden. Inside that box, wrapped in Tibetan silk, were the founder's true diaries, not those we know publicly, but rather her most intimate records, her most disturbing visions, including detailed descriptions of what she called the spiritual dissolution protocol. In these manuscripts, Blavatsky describes with astonishing precision the mechanism by which certain souls would be removed from reality. She explains that every human being possesses what she termed evolutionary frequency, a unique vibration that determines their capacity to grow spiritually. Those who stop vibrating, she wrote, become like stones in the river of evolution, and the universe itself, in its infinite wisdom, eventually removes these obstructions. But here's the most disturbing part. Blavatsky didn't just see this phenomenon, she also identified the signs that precede disappearance. The first sign is what she called emotional transparency, people who gradually lose the ability to form deep connections. They're physically present, but emotionally they become increasingly empty, as if their essence were slowly being drained. The second sign is even more alarming. These people begin to be gradually forgotten, first by distant acquaintances, then by close friends, even by family members, not due to memory problems, but as if the universe itself were erasing their records from reality. And the third sign, this one, is the most definitive. They begin to notice they're disappearing. They feel as if they're becoming ghosts in their own lives, but they can't do anything to stop the process. Before continuing, tell me in the comments, from what city are you listening to me? I'm curious to know where the people who feel this connection to deeper truths are located. Write your city in the comments. It might be that other people from your area are also hearing this at the same moment. But what I've just told you is only the beginning, because what happened in the first verification of these predictions defies all logic. In 1975, exactly 50 years after the first date Blavatsky had marked as a checkpoint, something extraordinary and terrifying happened. A secret group of theosophical researchers decided to test the predictions from the lost manuscripts. Dr. Margaret Sinclair, a transpersonal psychologist from the University of Edinburgh, led what was called Project Continuity. For 2 years, they meticulously documented the lives of 200 people who exhibited the signs described by Blavatsky. The results were so disturbing that the project was immediately classified, but copies of the reports leaked decades later. What they discovered forever changed our understanding of the nature of reality. Of the 200 people studied, 62 simply disappeared. They didn't die. They didn't move away. They left no traces. They simply ceased to exist. And most shocking, their families, after a few weeks, began to forget that they had ever existed. Dr. Sinclair recorded in her personal notes, "It's like watching someone being erased from a movie. First the most recent scenes disappear, then the older one, until no evidence remains that this person was ever here. But there was a pattern. All these people had something in common. They had stopped dreaming. Literally. Sleep studies showed they no longer entered REM phase, as if their souls had lost the ability to travel to other dimensions during rest. Blavatsky had predicted this too. In her diaries, she wrote, "When the soul stops dreaming, it stops growing. And when it stops growing, it becomes a weight that reality itself can no longer sustain." The project was abruptly terminated when Dr. Sinclair herself began showing symptoms. Her colleagues reported that she was becoming strangely forgettable. Her contributions to academic discussions were ignored, as if she were gradually losing her presence in the world. And then, in March 1977, Dr. Margaret Sinclair simply disappeared. There are no records of her death, no documents of relocation. It's as if she never existed, except for some scattered notes that managed to survive the erasure process. Leave a comment if this is making sense to you. If you know someone who seems to be vanishing from people's lives around them, because the pattern I'm about to reveal will explain why this is happening more frequently. In Blavatsky's manuscripts, there exists a code, a sequence of symbols she left as a key to understanding the complete mechanism of disappearance. For decades, no one could decipher it, until in 2019, a young Brazilian researcher made a discovery that changed everything. Rafael Santos, a doctoral candidate in esoteric philosophy at the University of São Paulo, was studying numerological patterns in Blavatsky's writings when he noticed something extraordinary. The symbols weren't mystical. They were coordinates, temporal coordinates marking specific moments when the dissolution phenomenon would intensify, and the most important coordinate pointed directly to the period between December 2024 and March 2025. When we deciphered the code, Raphael recounts in his classified report, we realized that Blavatsky wasn't just predicting the future. She was describing an automatic mechanism of the universe, like a cleaning system that removes consciousnesses that can no longer evolve. But here's the most disturbing part. The code revealed that this process isn't random. There are specific triggers that accelerate disappearance, and these triggers are becoming more common each year. The first trigger is what Blavatsky called total empathic disconnection. People who completely lose the ability to feel genuine compassion for other beings. They can simulate emotions, but inside they've become empty. The second trigger is even more subtle. Existential creative paralysis. People who completely stop creating, imagining, dreaming of possibilities. They live on autopilot, just repeating patterns without any spark of originality. And the third trigger. This one is the most definitive, conscious denial of transcendence. People who not only stop believing in something greater, but who actively combat any attempt at consciousness expansion, whether their own or others. Blavatsky wrote that when these three conditions combine in the same person, the dissolution process becomes irreversible. The person literally loses their license to exist on the plane of reality. And it was at this moment that Rafael Santos realized he wasn't alone in that library. Something was watching, a presence he described as the weight of 1,000 invisible eyes. He felt firsthand that he had discovered something he shouldn't know. If you feel it's no coincidence you're here, if you've always known there's more beyond what we're taught, stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal about the events of 2023 will prove that the process has already begun. Throughout the year 2023, something extraordinary began happening around the world. Paranormal research centers, transpersonal psychology institutes, and even some university departments began receiving similar reports, people reporting the same phenomenon, acquaintances who simply vanished from collective memory. The Institute for Psychical Research in London documented over 400 cases in 2023 alone. The Centre for Consciousness Studies in Petropolis registered another 350 cases in Brazil, and similar patterns emerged in at least 27 different countries. Dr. Helena Blavatsky, a neuroscientist from the University of Barcelona, led a study that shook the scientific community. "We're not talking about memory problems," she declared in a closed conference. "We're observing something that challenges our understanding of reality itself, as if certain people were being systematically removed from the fabric of existence." But most shocking were the reports from the disappeared themselves, people who were still physically present, but who began to notice that no one remembered them anymore. They would call family members who treated them like strangers. They'd arrive at work and discover their colleagues didn't recognize them, as if they were becoming ghosts in their own lives. One of these people, who managed to send a detailed account before disappearing completely, wrote, "It's like dying in slow motion, but it's not my body that's dying. It's my existence. People look through me. My own mother asked me who I was when I showed up at the house where I grew up. And here's where everything connects with Blavatsky's predictions. All these cases had common characteristics. People who had lost the ability to dream, who could no longer feel genuine emotions, who lived in complete autopilot, exactly as described in the 1890 manuscripts. What's most impressive is that these disappearances follow a specific geographic pattern. They began in large metropolises, places where people live more isolated, where it's easier to be forgotten, and they're spreading to smaller cities following exactly the routes Blavatsky had mapped. Write in the comments if you know someone who seems to be vanishing from people's lives, if you've ever felt you were being forgotten for no reason, because the patterns I'm revealing may be happening closer to you than you imagine. But the biggest revelation was yet to come, because what Helena Blavatsky discovered about her own experience with this phenomenon, about how she almost was erased before managing to leave her warnings. This you need to hear in the second part. What you're about to discover will shake your confidence in everything you thought you knew about government transparency. In 2020, a document leaked from Russian intelligence archives, a classified report that proves various governments have known about Blavatsky's phenomenon for decades, and they don't just know, they're actively monitoring. The document, known internally as Operation Clean Memory, reveals that since 1963, a secret international task force has been tracking cases of existential dissolution. The project involves agencies from at least 12 countries, including CIA, KGB, MI6, and even our own intelligence services. But here's the most disturbing part. They're not trying to stop the phenomenon. They're studying how to control it, how to direct it, how to use this natural cleaning mechanism for their own purposes. Dr. Viktor Petrov, former director of paranormal research for the KGB, revealed in his memoirs before dying, "We discovered that certain electromagnetic frequencies can accelerate the process. People exposed to these specific frequencies develop symptoms much more rapidly, in a matter of weeks instead of years." The report documents experiments conducted on isolated populations, small communities that were secretly exposed to these frequencies. The results were exactly as Blavatsky had predicted. People began to disappear, not physically, but from collective memory, until entire communities simply ceased to exist. And here's where everything becomes truly terrifying. The document reveals that these frequencies are being transmitted through mobile phone networks, specifically through fifth-generation technology, the famous 5G towers being installed around the world. I'm not saying every 5G tower is malicious, but the report indicates that certain towers in specific locations have been modified to emit frequencies that accelerate the dissolution process, and the installation of these towers followed exactly the timeline that would lead to peak activity in 2025. When he opened that classified document, the words Viktor Petrov read changed everything. But what was written inside about the true purpose of the project made him defect immediately. because he discovered it wasn't just an experiment. It was preparation. For those who have always known there's more, who feel things aren't as they seem. Comment below if you've also noticed strange changes in people's behavior around you, because what I'm about to reveal about Helena Blavatsky's personal experience will explain why she managed to resist the process. In her most intimate diaries, Helena Blavatsky revealed something that completely changed my understanding of this entire situation. She didn't just predict the dissolution phenomenon, she experienced it personally, and almost was erased from existence before managing to leave her warnings for humanity. This happened in 1887, 3 years before her death. Blavatsky began to notice something was wrong. "People look at me," she wrote, "but it's as if they don't really see me. As if I were becoming transparent to the world." Her own disciples began to forget her. Meetings she had scheduled were simply ignored. Letters she sent received no response, not out of malice or discourtesy, but because people genuinely didn't remember having received them. "It's a desperate feeling," she recorded in December 1887, "to be alive, conscious, but gradually ceasing to exist in others' perception, as if I were being erased from a painting, brushstroke by brushstroke." But Helena Blavatsky was different. She possessed knowledge that most people don't have. She knew spiritual anchoring techniques she had learned from the masters of Tibet, and that's what saved her. She discovered that the dissolution process happens because the person loses their energetic anchors, deep connections with other consciousnesses, and with greater purposes. When these anchors break, the person gradually drifts out of shared reality. "I realized I was disconnecting," she wrote, "not just from people, but from the very web of existence, like a thread coming loose from fabric, and if I didn't do something quickly, I would be completely pulled out of reality." The technique she used to re-anchor herself is fascinating. She created what she called unbreakable connection points, forged spiritual bonds so deep with certain people and purposes that it would be impossible to erase her without also erasing these connections. That's why she founded the Theosophical Society, not just to spread knowledge, but to create a network of connected consciousnesses that would keep her anchored in reality. Each person who truly absorbed her teachings became an anchor that protected her from oblivion. And that's also why she wrote the secret manuscripts. She knew that if she didn't leave a detailed warning, millions of people in the future would go through the same process. But without the necessary knowledge to protect themselves, share your own experience in the comments. Have you ever felt you were being forgotten for no reason, that your presence was diminishing in people's lives? Because the technique Blavatsky used might work for you too. And then, for the first time in decades of research, I gained access to the most protected document of this entire investigation, Helena Blavatsky's final diary, the one she wrote just 3 days before dying. And what's written inside will shock you. Blavatsky didn't die of natural causes. She was murdered, not by physical enemies, but by something much more sinister. She discovered that the dissolution process isn't a natural phenomenon. It's artificially controlled. "They are here," she wrote with trembling letters. "Beings that exist between dimensions, that feed on the energy of consciousnesses being dissolved, like spiritual parasites that cultivate their own food." According to Blavatsky, these interdimensional beings discovered millennia ago that they can nourish themselves on energy released when a soul is erased from existence. And throughout history, they have manipulated entire civilizations to create conditions that accelerate this process. The year 2025 wasn't chosen randomly. It's the moment when various cosmic conditions align to create the perfect opportunity for a mass harvest. Planetary alignments, changes in Earth's magnetic field, and mainly, the current state of human consciousness. Never in human history, Blavatsky wrote, have so many people been so disconnected from themselves, so spiritually empty, so ready to be dissolved. It's as if our entire modern civilization were designed to create the maximum possible number of empty consciousnesses that can be easily removed. But here's the most important part. Blavatsky discovered that this process can be interrupted. There's a way to protect not only yourself, but also to help other people anchor themselves again in reality. The key lies in what she called conscious reconnection. 3 specific steps that need to be performed before March 2025. First, reconnect deeply with at least 3 other people. Create genuine bonds that go beyond superficiality. Second, find a greater purpose, something that connects you with humanity's evolution. And third, practice daily consciousness expansion through meditation, contemplation, or spiritual study. Those who follow these 3 steps, she wrote, will become immune to the process, and more importantly, will become capable of protecting others, like anchoring beacons in a storm of forgetting. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share it now, because the implications of what I'm about to reveal about humanity's future will change your perspective on your role in this crucial moment of history. What Helena Blavatsky saw about humanity's future goes beyond any apocalyptic prophecy you've ever heard. She realized that 2025 isn't the end. It's a filter, a selection that will determine who continues existing and who simply disappears forever. According to her final calculations, between 15 and 20% of the current world population is at imminent risk of dissolution. That means more than 1.5 billion people who could simply cease to exist in the coming months, not through physical death, but through complete erasure from reality. But here's what most people don't understand. This isn't a punishment. It's a natural consequence of spiritual choices. People who voluntarily disconnected from their own humanity, who stopped growing, who became spiritual living dead. We shouldn't feel pity, Blavatsky wrote, for these beings are no longer truly human. They are empty shells that consume energy without contributing to evolution. Their removal will allow real humanity to finally evolve to the next stage. And here's where everything becomes hopeful. Those who survive the 2025 filter will have access to capabilities we today consider impossible: genuine telepathy, ability to influence reality through intention, extremely extended longevity, direct connection with higher dimensions. Blavatsky saw that after the Great Cleansing, humanity will enter a new era, what she called the Age of Unified Consciousness, when barriers between individual minds will begin to dissolve, but in a positive way, creating a kind of natural spiritual internet. Imagine, she wrote, a humanity where each person can instantly access the knowledge and wisdom of all others, where complex problems are solved through collective intelligence, where war, poverty, and suffering become impossible because everyone feels everyone's pain. But to get there, we first need to pass through the filter, and here's your responsibility. You who are hearing this weren't guided to this information by chance. You're part of those who must help others anchor themselves. Each person you manage to awaken and reconnect with their true humanity not only saves that person from dissolution, but also strengthens the entire network of connected consciousnesses that will form the new humanity. You're part of a special group of people who receive this information at exactly the right moment, because what I'm about to reveal about what you need to do will determine not only your own destiny, but also how many other people you'll be able to save. We've reached the end of this journey through Helena Blavatsky's deepest secrets. But actually, this is just the beginning, because now you carry a responsibility that goes far beyond your own spiritual survival. You remember the first sentence you heard at the beginning? If you were guided to this truth today, it's because your consciousness is ready to expand. Now you understand why these words were chosen. You didn't arrive here by chance. You were called. Helena Blavatsky left specific instructions for this moment. Those who receive the knowledge in the final months before the Great Cleansing, she wrote, will become the guardians of the new humanity. Each of them must awaken at least 10 other consciousnesses, creating a protection network that spreads exponentially. So here's what you need to do in the coming days. First, strengthen your own anchors. Reconnect deeply with the important people in your life. Have real conversations. Vulnerable, authentic. Second, find your greater purpose. Something that connects you with humanity's evolution. It could be art, knowledge, healing, protection, anything that contributes to collective growth. Third, and most important, begin sharing this information, not desperately or terrifyingly, but as a gentle invitation to people you feel are ready. Observe who around you seems to be vanishing from life, who is becoming emptier, more disconnected. These are the people who most need this information. Stay until the end, because the greatest secret is yet to come. Through the comments on this narrative, you'll find other people who also received this calling. Together, you'll form a local network of anchored consciousnesses, a spiritual protection cell that can save hundreds of people. Leave a comment now writing, "I accept the responsibility." This way you'll connect with other guardians who are making the same commitment around the world. And in upcoming videos, I'll reveal specific techniques that Blavatsky left to strengthen these protection networks, because in a world on the brink of forgetting, remembering becomes an act of rebellion. Share this knowledge. Save who you can. And remember, you're not alone in this mission. We are thousands. And together, we'll ensure that true humanity not only survives, but evolves into something extraordinary. Time is running out, but there's still hope, and that hope is in your hands.